Solved. Solved. French. Okay, welcome. I suggest we leave the door open.
Yes.
Yes. Is that okay? Okay. I'm Lianne Hoogeveen. I'm doing different things, but one of them is that I'm a psychologist, mental health psychologist, and so I have clients, and I want to introduce you to two of them to start this lecture. This is Jane, and Jane was 5 years old when I met her in our practice, and I'm going to tell you a little bit about Jane, just a little bit. Her mother was 17 when Jane was born, and she was a dropout of school, the mother, and at this moment she's unemployed. Her father is a drug addict, and Jane never met him actually. So the man you see is not her father, it's her stepfather, and he, like her mother, is unemployed. Jane has some problems in school. She's aggressive, and one of the things she does, she kicks the teacher. Well, that's not the behavior we want in school, so there is a problem. And I'm aware that this is very little information, but based on the information you have, what would you think? What is happening here? What would be causing these problems? Maybe you can, yeah.
Well, considering the workshop, I would say she is probably very intelligent and not getting enough
challenges.
Yeah. And therefore she kicks her teacher because they don't understand her. And the more she kicks, the more they put her in the box of probably not very smart doing things. And she gets more aggressive and her behavior becomes worse.
Okay, thank you. Of course, you have information that the teacher didn't have, that you are in this workshop. Yeah. So the teacher had another idea about this situation, and I think we can all understand that she thought Jane has behavioral, possibly psychiatric problems, and she needs special education. This is actually what happened before Jane came to us. I have another client, Oliver, and he was 9 years old when he came to us. And his father is a very successful and wealthy businessman. Actually, what you see here is not, they are not at home, they are in their second home in Italy. And his mother studied French and Italian, but at this moment isn't working because she wants to take care for the kids and the dogs, of course, as you see. And Oliver also has problems at school. He has low grades, and it's a little bit like Jane. He is aggressive at school. So what would you think about this situation? Again, based on very little information. What would be his problem?
Well, I think he wants to be like an adult. And I think he feels he's not good enough to be he's not good enough in everything that he does. Mm-hmm. He doesn't feel competent, so he thinks. So I think, and that's frustrating because he does not have the correct. Ja, ik zeg het even in Nederlands hoor. Hij heeft gewoon niet de goede kaders, zeg maar, om. Hij legt de lat, zeg maar, voor zichzelf te hoog en hij heeft niet de goede kaders waarin hij zichzelf goed kan afmaken. Mm-hmm. Dus dat is zelf onmogelijk. Yeah, the possible goals, yeah.
Thank you. Yeah, it's a little bit maybe what the teachers thought. You don't mention the parents, but you say he himself thinks he should achieve better on a higher level, well, maybe.
You know about gifted children that when they like make a drawing of a car. They're never satisfied.
It's never
good
enough.
Car outside.
Okay. Oh no, then it's a different view that the teacher had. The teacher had the simple idea: this boy is just an average boy, no problems at all. But he has very successful parents, and in this picture, in this beautiful picture, there should be a boy with very high intelligence that goes to university when he's... So his parents push him too much. That was the hypothesis, you could say, of the teacher. Okay, very quickly, I would like you to look at this picture and tell your neighbor what is happening here. Or if you don't have a neighbor, find someone. And tell it to each other. But very quickly, because of the 40 minutes.
Volgens mij is het een beetje net als zo'n vriendstest, dat de een ziet een soort gevaarlijke boom en de ander die ziet een gezellige. Dus ik denk een beetje zo is.
Oh, ik vind dat eigenlijk.
Okay, now I want to know who had different interpretation of this picture. Could you just indicate if the two of you had different interpretations? Oh, you didn't discuss it. If you discussed it, yeah. But what's your...
The lion baby. You can see two things, like you can see the couples looking outside, and you can see a baby who's lying there on his back.
Okay. Okay, so you did see different things. Of course, there are a lot of this kind of pictures. And of course, I want to illustrate one of the characteristics of implicit theories, that they are personal construction about a specific phenomenon, in this case, the picture, residing in the mind of an individual. And this is another kind of situation. Think about what do you expect that is happening here, and then think about it. You have to go there. There's the shop you want to go. What would you do?
Turn around.
because
They're doing something wrong.
they are doing something wrong. You expect they are doing something wrong, like,
Not building the wall.
and you think, I better take another way. Well, what is happening here is that he is giving him money because he helped him building this wall. And if you would pass by, they would say, "Good morning," and nothing would happen. Of course, I'm lying, but it could be possible. So implicit beliefs guide your expectations, and they provide interpretation of new information and direct behavior. So this is normal. And one more. This is a phenomenon that I saw last November. I was in Peru, in Lima, and it was springtime there, and it was 20 degrees, and I have family there, and they were freezing because it was only 20 degrees. And they thought, when I'm freezing, I'm sure my dog is freezing, and I put him with a jacket. And with my implicit theory, I would say, you're crazy, this is a dog, and 20 degrees, it's not cold. But you can imagine that people's motivation level, affective condition, and actions are commonly based on a perception rather than any external or internal reality, whatever that might be. So you won't be surprised that nothing has as much impact on actual life and practices as implicit theories. And this is okay, because without them, you couldn't function. If I don't have implicit theories about you, I wouldn't have a clue how to talk, what to do. So we need those implicit theories. We need them in education. Because if that teacher is going to that girl, she has many implicit theories. For example, I think she thinks, or doesn't think it consciously, this girl had breakfast in the morning. She looks well fed, clean. So, and based on those ideas, she is talking to that girl. And that's okay. It would take way too much time if she had 100 questions about, are you ready that I talk, what is the level that I have to talk to you? That's not possible. So we need those implicit theories. Problem is that we are not aware of our own implicit theories. And we do not realize that they differ from others, because they are rooted in culture and arise from unconscious functions of the brain. And that is, the problem is not the implicit theories. Again, we need them, but we are not aware that we have them. And we confuse them with the truth, for example. And then this can happen, for example. Or this can happen. So maybe you can think, now what has this to do with giftedness? This is all general what I'm talking about. And of course, I have a reason that I'm interested in this, because this is what I see all the time, and Jane and Oliver, of course, are examples of that. One thing about giftedness, and are there people here who were in first lecture here? No. Is there is no, yeah, sorry. There's no definition of giftedness, so it's quite complicated. But when we talk about giftedness, generally we are also talking about identifying who is gifted. And we evaluate, we assess, we judge. And while we are doing that, there's happening a lot. We hold beliefs, we make assumptions, and we use methods that value our educational system. And then we think, that means something. Well, it means something in our educational system. Maybe you are a teacher, so you think, well, this doesn't apply to me. I'm a teacher, I don't evaluate. Well, I don't have to convince you. You do, and of course you do. And again, you should do it. You should do it. Not only you will do that, classmates have implicit theories, and their behavior also depends on those implicit theories. We all know this. And we were interested in what are the implicit theories of Dutch students of an intelligent person. We were following up on a research project that had the same questions in Germany and Kenya. Do you say Kenya? Kenya, sorry. Kenya. And we were very interested, what are the implicit theories of Dutch students of an intelligent person? So we asked children to draw an intelligent person, and then after they had drawn it, they had to turn the page, and there were some questions about the person they drew. And this is already interesting, because with their drawings, some made really statements. For example, this, I think it was a girl who drew this. And she wanted to be sure it's not a girl or a boy, it can be both. Or this girl is saying, I'm not different from the rest. Of course, we had a lot of Einsteins, and well, you see the glasses. The glasses, yeah, of course.
Thinking. A lot of them are thinking.
So I'm not going to. It is published as a book chapter of a book that you will never read, I suppose, because it's in Slovenia. The book. It's in English, this chapter, but if you're interested, I can send it to you. So I give you just some general findings. 12-year-old Dutch students, and there were a lot, sorry that I don't have the number now, but a lot, told us they are hardworking and persistent. And we were kind of surprised that was the most important thing they said. And not only surprised, happy. That they didn't say have a high IQ, which we feared. No, they are hardworking and persistent. A little less, but also a lot of times they say they are creative, talented in languages, and imaginative. We also were happy that there were no differences in girls and boys, in the drawn girls and boys, in mathematics and science. So there were as many girls of which they said they are good at mathematics and science as there were boys. There was a difference though in technical skills and computer science. It was more related to boys than to girls. And artistic talents weren't mentioned, nor social skills. So according to 12-year-old students, these are the characteristics of an intelligent person, and these are not. Although we think they should be, therefore I put them down. If you want to know more, please contact me and I can give you more information. So we were quite satisfied about how Dutch students looked at these intelligent persons. How about the people surrounding our gifted students? So we have parents, of course, very important. But in this case, I told you about the hypothesis of the teachers. Did it help in this case, Jane and Oliver? Well, you don't know because you don't know what was the case, and well, you already understood if they were my clients, and not necessarily, of course, because they could be wrong. I can imagine that some of you thought, stepfather, I'm looking at the picture. Is there something happening there? What makes her aggressive? Could be one of the implicit theories. Actually, in the case of Jane, you could say the stepfather saved her school career because her mother just believed the teacher. Because who was she? No education, no job, school dropout. So she believed the teacher. The stepfather said, I don't believe it. I see an intelligent girl and we should find out if that's not the case. And so that's the reason they came to us, which was a big problem for them because it's expensive to come to the institute where I work. And actually, she was the girl or the child with the highest IQ scores I've seen in my career. So everybody was surprised. And actually, she already was sent to special education. And I had a kind of letter of the teacher there. And she said, sometimes she is complaining that she feels lonely, but that's her own fault. This was a long time ago. I hope that teacher retired now. So I was really shocked because, and her reason to say it's her own fault is that she said, well, she should be more socializing with the other kids. But this was a girl who had a completely different interests, so it was quite difficult. So it didn't help her, the implicit theory of the teacher. And if the stepfather hadn't done what he did, she had, I don't know what had happened. Well, actually, I don't know what has happened at this moment. Oliver, that's not strange that the teacher thought that. And actually, I see I'm rushing so much now that I can't slow down. So I give you a small anecdote. The family already was known by us, and I don't know why, but they had an appointment with my colleague that day about Oliver. And then, and we knew these people were successful, rich, but also, this is my implicit theory, you know the type, they didn't have any problem to show it. So their accent, their way of dressing themselves, the way of talking, the words they used, they just showed success. That day, I didn't have any appointment. And I don't know, well, you have appointment every day if you are working in education, but I didn't have any appointment. And I thought, well, I put on my jeans and went, who cares? I'm just at my desk. Then my colleague got sick. And I didn't have any appointment, so I thought, oh my God, with the clothes I'm wearing, I have to talk with that family. So I tried to compensate with attitude. And I had a very interesting conversation with those parents, because I immediately saw what could be a problem at school. The way they presented themselves was, well, I can imagine that it caused problems. And then the father said, you know, I'm a hockey coach. I'm coaching, of course, it's part of the image. I'm a hockey coach. I coach older boys, and Oliver was also playing hockey, but in another team. And so once he took him with him to the training of the older boys. And they were training, I don't play hockey, but they were training something which helped to score. And he said, well, if you want to, you can join. And he just didn't understand it. He didn't understand. He was, and the father got annoyed. Well, just listen and do what I'm telling you. And then he said, because if you do this, it's easier to make a goal. And then Oliver said, oh, that's what you mean. And then he understood. You recognize the top-down learning. Well, to make a long story short, we looked at Oliver, and also Oliver, like Jane, not that high, but had very high potential, which wasn't seen because it was the other way around. Because of the implicit theory of the teacher, who thought, of course, they want a gifted child. And of course, he isn't. So this is literally what I heard, not this teacher, another teacher said, we give him some rest, because there's so much pressure from home, so here he doesn't need to achieve that high. Okay, so what happens if you get a little older and you have given a lot of lectures, a lot of education, then sometimes you get a little bit moralistic, and that's, well, it's my pitfall, so I want to change things and give you kind of a message. So I would like that we have another way to approach a student, but also client, patient, anybody. And I was very happy to see someone saying the same things. And I was more happy it was a psychiatrist. Does anybody know him? Jim van Os. I don't know him, but I read an interview with him in the Volkskrant some months ago. And he was talking about diagnosis. And I couldn't believe it, a psychiatrist who was against diagnosing people. And what he said appealed so much to what I'm thinking. He said we should be more curious instead of judgmental. And these are his words. Be amazed and ask what happened? What is your problem? What is your strengths and what are your goals and what do you need to achieve them? This is not something new, of course, if we are talking about now I have trouble. Help me translate. Handelingsgericht. Needs-based. Needs-based. Yeah. We are getting more needs-based. Not what is somebody, but what does he need. So this is, of course, what he is telling us also. So I think that's the way we should approach our students. And if you think you figured it out, I thought about these 4 questions. Maybe you know them. Byron Katie, Positive Psychology. Yeah. Yeah. And she has a book that actually I don't like that much because it's about questions you should ask yourself about yourself. And the idea is when you do that, you could be more happy. This is very a very short summary.
Only 4 questions to be more happy.
Only 4 questions. It's so easy. And I thought I'd borrow them from her. In the case that we think that we figured it out. The questions I would suggest is simply, is it true what we think we figured out? Can I absolutely know that can I absolutely be sure that it is true? And how will I react, or what happens when I believe that thought? And maybe the most important, how would I treat this person without that thought? This seems to be very simple. I think it isn't. I think it isn't. I think that this could frighten you. I think it will frighten you to think like this, because you will be evaluated. We all have bosses, I think, most of us. So, and colleagues, maybe more important even. So they will evaluate it, and they might evaluate your behavior as unsatisfactory, strange, rebellious. We all know that situation, that all our colleagues say, well, it's obvious that. And then it's very difficult to say, maybe it's something different. Maybe we are not right. You might even lose your job. Anybody saw the movie Dead Poets Society? He loses his job. I think it's, well, of course it's a movie, it's very American, but I think it's a wonderful teacher, that man, and I think you think so too. On the other hand, we should think about the fact that fear impacts your work, and that fear reduces willingness to take risks, and that it can inhibit growth and innovation. So this is actually what I would like to ask you to think about. That I think we can change a lot, and I heard this actually the whole day, things like that. And one moment I thought, I don't have to do this lecture, because we all want this, I think. Not be led by fear, but by growth and innovation. So I think gifted, but of course also the non-gifted students, will benefit if we become aware of our own implicit theories. We realize that our implicit theories are rooted in our culture and can differ from others' implicit theories. And when we evaluate or assess or identify, we should ask ourselves, why do we do it? How do we do it? And what is the social and political context in which we evaluate? This has to do what is right, what is wrong in our situation, our culture. And I think we all know the example that you're talking to a student from another culture and you say, look me in the eyes. And we all know there are cultures that is very rude to do that, being a student. So this is a simple example of how it can go wrong. Let's be more curious and less judgmental, and let's try to find out what our children's strengths, their goals and their needs to achieve them. And I think this is very important. We should doubt a little bit more. And there is a big pitfall if we are doubting, of course, because that can paralyze us. So the challenge is that we dare to question our implicit theories, to listen, to observe and to doubt, but not being afraid to act. And I think this is our challenge. And I'm way well done. Into Ghana. So if you want, there might be some discussion. Or questions? Or we just call it a day.
I think we're all very tired.
I'm actually happy that there are so many people still left. It's not tiring.
Heeft u ook dat, ik heb hem zelf nog niet gelezen, maar onspelbare denken, daar hoor je ook heel veel over. Dat gaat hij eigenlijk ook heel erg over. Dat als we iets zien, dat we dan meteen reageren eigenlijk. Het systeem
Moest ik ook aan denken, systeem, ja. Snelle systeem en daarna ga je terug redeneren waarom het waar is. Ja. Ja,
onspelbare denken.
Onspelbare denken, mensen. Daar staat, ik heb
thinking fast and thinking slow, is het Engels? Waarschijnlijk heb je het.
Thinking fast, thinking slow. Ik heb hem niet daarin gewerkt, maar dankjewel. Nou, dan ga ik hem zeker...
Dus staat hier ook goed, heel mooi op aan.
Oké, dankjewel.
Dat is echt dat het eigenlijk een biologisch systeem is waaronder die zit niet. Daarmee reageer je op situaties en achteraf kijk je bij jezelf een narrative bedenken waarom je hebt gedaan wat je hebt gedaan.
Ja, inderdaad.
En dat is eigenlijk die implicit
Dat is het, ja. Ja.